We've been at Spinningfields since 2001, so we're just over 10 years. We built a total of 3.4 million square feet. We've actually done that all as Allied London in partnership with Manchester City Council. We've got a total of 58 new organisations, and we've got 17,000 people working on a site, and it is obviously primarily a business quarter. We were not expecting October 2008, as actually neither were sort of most of us. And I guess when we get to October 2013, it'll be 5 years since we actually finished the last commercial building. And actually, to be honest, we've actually been a bit perplexed as actually what to do next. And we've basically looked at Manchester, and we've gone back actually to 1850, and we've gone back to what happened in the Industrial Revolution. And actually, you think that's relevant because that's where the city of centre of Manchester started, and it basically started on the through textiles, cotton mills, and in those days it was not institutions, it was not developers. In fact, we didn't have a role to play at all. It was actually in the industrialists. It was people that actually knew what they wanted, they knew what they were going to make, and they knew who they were going to sell it to. And that gave the birth to Manchester City Centre. That lasted up until about 1950. Thereafter, obviously, certain things happened. The mid-1900s, we had a political crisis after the war, and that's when Manchester remained static. It was not till 1980, which I call a financial revolution, rather than industrial revolution, that Manchester was born again. And 1980, right through to 2010, was the financial revolution. It was actually driven purely on debt. In 2010, that ended. And in our view, what happened in 2010 is we had the birth of the technical revolution. And that's what we're actually working in right now. Whether it's science, technology, media, social media, it is all innovation. And the challenge for us is knowing that we might not have the banks to take our buildings, we might not have the lawyers, we might not have the accountants. I'm actually not sure what we can develop. But what I do know is actually we want to develop something, and I can't afford to wait 5 years. And at Spinningfields, we've always sought to be innovative. And whilst it isn't evident, I think actually building buildings of 500, 600,000 square feet back in 2003, 2004 was actually innovative. And I'm not sure that will happen again in the next 10 years. We've actually found ways of building them, we found ways of leasing them, but more importantly, we found ways of funding them. And our latest building, which was a total of 460,000 square feet, an investment value of £220 million, I was told I'd never fund that. Well, not only did we fund it, we built it, developed it, leased it, and we sold it. But I don't think that would happen right now. So we've tried to be innovative. But in actually doing that, I'm not sure going forward who the occupier is. Not because I'm stupid, although probably a lot of people think I am. It's just I don't know who the occupier is. I don't know whether it's a bank, I don't know a lawyer, or it's an accountant. What I actually do know is the TMT sector is actually taking over. So your telecoms, your media, your technology, science. But I don't know what these people want. I simply don't. Google have taken 3,000 people to Dublin. Facebook have actually followed them. What's driving that? Tax. Etihad have opened the most state-of-the-art call centre in actually New East Manchester. Well, I actually wouldn't have actually predicted them actually going there or actually finishing that building, how they finished it. We probably know how they'll work. They'll actually mostly I mean, I'm actually talking to a firm of barristers at the moment about taking 5,000 square feet. They actually turn up to meetings in jeans. Now, that's a small thing, but it actually indicates what's happening. So how large will their workforce be? I don't actually know. Where will they work? Well, actually, we know it'll be cities, and we actually I know it will be close to actually public transport. What we do know as well is these companies will use technology. They will work while we sleep, and they will want absolutely cost efficiency. And while some people will talk about location, I think for the next 5 years it'll be people, cost. It'll be those two things that will drive where people go. So Manchester has to go to market, and we've got to go to market the TMT sector. We can actually try the banks, but I don't think there's a lot of luck there. I think the banks will continue to drive cost out of their business. Where I think we have got an opportunity, if we all join in, is actually hitting the TMT sector, which is why we've actually come up with this idea of I+. And I would also say something else about the new industries. They are very, very brand aware, and the people that work in these industries are very proud of their brand, more so than ever. I'll give you an example of a brand that's developed so quickly, which is ASOS. ASOS in the retail world is as powerful as Prada. It's only been going 5 years. If you work for ASOS, you work for a fantastic business. And that brand will be carried through in everything they do. The property asset, every single thing. These people will be very, very proud to work for these businesses. So we've come up with something that I think is really innovative. It's called I+. And I+ is a building. Which probably looks like most of you to any other building. And it probably is. And I'll explain the... Now, that building at the moment is 7 floor plates, 2 lifts and 2 staircases, and that's all it is. It's as simple as that. There's only 7 floors, because if you go higher, your building costs increase by 15%, because you have to actually sprinkle it. But the building will be located 400 metres from a train station, which in 2016 will have the benefit of the Ordsall Hub, which will link Piccadilly to Victoria. So its situation is absolutely essential, and it's vital that it's linked into public transport. I+ will also be very unique in that it's designed from the first stage to be occupied to a density of 1 to 5. That means it will suit any call centre in the world. The building is also created to give a particular amount of space. Every floor plate in this building is 22,000 square feet. But what's unique about it, it's 4 metres high. No one builds office buildings of 4 metres high. That's why it's not an office building. It's a place to work. As I said earlier, I don't know who will actually take this building that's giving us something to market. The reason it's 4 metres high is because the service solution is unique. When Sony, Nokia, Etihad arrive, and hopefully they will, or companies like that, we need buildings that we don't have to change. This building is 4 metres high. That basically gives us the solutions on the services. Every floor will have a raised floor of 400. And in that floor, either you actually put the chilled air, or you actually put the data and the electrics, or if you don't want to do that, you can put it on the ceiling. If you take either choice, you'll have a floor height of 3.6 metres, which is approximately 850 mil higher than all other office buildings, because it's aimed at a very different user. It's aimed at the user that wants on the floor amenity. But when you walk in the building as the potential tenant, you will see none of this. You'll see a concrete floor, you'll see a concrete ceiling, you will see a bank of lifts, and you'll see some stairs, and that's all you will actually see. Because it's the tenant who will decide how he wants to service it. He will decide what system he wants to put in. He's basically leasing off us a box, which is actually very intelligent. Box, and this building is actually a 7 building, so each of the floors will be serviced on the floor. Each floor will have a plant room. There will hopefully be a mix of different tenants in this building, so each and every floor is potentially a different organisation. The structure of the building is concrete, and built to every ceiling are actually cold water pipes. So at night time, this building basically cools itself. We estimate that you'll probably have to cool the air in this building 3 weeks of the year in Manchester. That is all. But actually the tenant will decide if he actually wants to cool it, because all these plants on his floor. So if he wants to cool it, he can turn it on. If he wants to heat it, he can turn it on. If he doesn't, that's absolutely fine. The aesthetic, well, we've actually been pretty good at design. This building will be no different. It'll be aesthetically cool, but it won't necessarily look like a traditional office building, because that's not where the market's going. The market's going somewhere else completely. I'm not too sure where it's going, but the fact out of 70 CEOs who've been imported from the States in the last 5 years, 80% of them are actually now in Shoreditch. That sort of gives you an indication of how important the people's brand is and how important their operation is. The building will be a part of the spinning fields community. We actually cannot rely on the banks and the professionals. Neither Manchester actually nor spinning fields. It's just simply not going to happen. So we're going to have to go and find a new community. We're going to have to find new organisations to occupy our buildings, and that's what this building's about. The big thing is the cost, because all right, it looks great, the servicing strategy is fantastic. A tenant can come to us and he can lease a floor in a shell. So he can literally lease the concrete ceiling, the floors, his space, and that will cost him £14 a foot. He can then add on, depending on what services he wants, what specification he wants it actually finished to. But even if he has the best sort of grade A BCO office finish, this building should be able to turn out at something like 70% of the current prime rental in the city. But the key is the tenant will decide what rent he pays, because it'll be the tenant that decides what services he wants to put in this building. And I think that's really key, because working with these tenants, particularly the media, the tech companies, they are very, very cost conscious, and they want to control their own costs. And so this building is actually designed by the tenant. We give the shell, and then the tenant comes along, he decides what goes in the shell and actually how much rent he pays. We've actually funded it. We're hoping to start on site by the beginning of 2013, and we hope to complete the building by very early 2014. It's a total of 160,000 square feet. So we think it's innovative. It's a product. It's a product of the time, and it's a product that's designed to give ultimate flexibility, because I simply don't know where the market is. But what I want to do is actually build and actually go to market. Thanks very much.